I wish to serve my second notice on Mr. Congressman Charles Rangel. And I want to say this with all of the strength that's within me in terms of trying to explain the tenacity with which I will fight, and which Mr. Rangel now has to defend himself against James David Manning. I will crawl from 110th Street and Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard to Macombe's Dam and Adam Clayton's Jr. Boulevard on my knees before I allow Congressman Charles Rangel to return to Washington in November of 2008. This is his last. This is his last time in office, and days are now. And he better take good advantage of it, because for the 15th Congressional District, come November, there will be a new black face in Washington declaring and pontificating on behalf of the people of this community known as Harlem. Now, that you might know that I am serious and have been so before I met some of you. Some of you I see and know, and we've had some dialogue with. I want you to hear a letter I wrote to Congressman Rangel back in September, as I was led by the Lord back in September of this year. If you will pardon me, give me the opportunity to read this letter. I want you to hear what I said to him before I met many of you, that you might know my sincerity and my courage, if that's not too boastful. It's to Congressman Charles B. Rangel, both to his Washington office and his district office on 125th Street. It says, "Dear Congressman Rangel, I greet you in the spirit of Marcus Garvey, Adam Clayton Powell Jr., Booker T. Washington, the African diaspora and black people worldwide who love these men to the point of worship. As a courtesy, I'm writing to advise you that I'm in the process of educating the African American people of Harlem and nationwide of the great betrayal and sellout by the Negro politicians of this sacred community called Harlem. The former New York City Mayor David N. Dinkins was tenaciously booed more than 10 minutes by nearly 300 infuriated black and white residents of Harlem at a recent Columbia University hearing hosted by Community Board Number 9. It has become abundantly clear that the hijacking of Harlem has been an inside job. Without the blessings of the local political leaders, outside interests could not have destroyed black families, foreclosed heirloom properties, and reaped billions in windfall profits from mediocre construction and predatory lending. You, Mr. Rangel, have failed your charge and constituency. The foundation of the people's anger is the wholesale probating of the people's land and economic inheritance to the new non-black, non-indigenous Harlemites. Our anger is further inflamed by the use of a police state to destroy black culture and the unmitigated ignorance of the Ellis Island immigrants to extinct the one and only Mecca of the African diaspora survivors of the Great Middle Passage. Harlem will not be gentrified because God, whose name is Jesus, has already sanctified it as Atla, because that's what God said. Therefore, Mr. Rangel, we and I respectfully request that you, with all deliberate speed, resign your congressional seat, and in doing so, inform all the survivors and the ancestors of the Great Middle Passage that our Mecca will be restored and the economic raping and robbing of our people will be no more. I await your resignation. Most assured, the Honorable James David Manning. he wrote me back. He could not sit still for that. It's a handwritten note. His secretary did not do this. As you can see, it's on his personal stationery from the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. And he writes, "Dear Dr. Manning, please forgive me for my delayed response to your September 17th letter. I agree that there are many economic, educational, and indeed political problems that black folk in Harlem and around the world will have to overcome. I think that I am making a contribution towards the solutions of the problems we face, so I cannot accommodate your request that I resign. I will always strive to do better. Sincerely, Charles B. Rangel." I thought it would be important tonight that you would understand my sincerity and my commitment, and without your strength or support that you have demonstrated here tonight, that I have informed Mr. Rangel that he should resign. And I've done so in light of the fact that a congressman with his kind of power and political understanding will lean very heavily on someone who makes such statements towards them. And even your being here tonight, you are demonstrating courage, because once the powers that be understand or be informed that you have come just to listen, they may decide to cut off whatever source of income or whatever source that you have associated with them, as many of you are on what I've called the bureaucratic biscuit. But let me state this to you, and I want you to hear me so that we can move forward from this point. That for the 26 years I've been pastor of this church, and at present, I'm not beholden to any politicians. Many of them did not know my name until recently. All these cars began to hit the street without stopping. I haven't taken anything from them. Not one program, not one dime, not one recognition. Several years ago, the Congressman Rangel called me and asked me if I would speak at one of his re-election campaign banquets, if I would be keynote at that banquet. I declined. I declined because I thought it would be imprudent for me to go and stand there and say the things in truth that I am given to say with all of his friends around. And so I would not accept his invitation to speak. I'm not on anybody's payroll except God, and he pays very well. I take no money. There are no social programs. There's not one program, not one, that runs through this church that is associated with any of the political parties. That be not one. They have no strings attached to this church. They cannot lean on us or take anything away from us. We are independent completely of them. I owe them no money. I have no associations with them. I can stand in truth and declare what God would have me to say, that this community belongs to us and that we shall reclaim it through the process of no dew nor rain. That's right. Thank God you're picking up on it. It is our further intent to issue a recall statement, and after such, a community-wide vote of no confidence, and engage the congressman and all of his underlings in the most fierce way. We want to tell the congressman that we don't want him any longer as leader of our people, and that his tenure ends at present.